about half the railway maintenance jobs that are done in the United Kingdom are running on a system we wrote in 6 months, and there's 3 of us in the company. And we rewrote a system they've been using for years. It took about 2 minutes to load the front page, and it was written in .NET, and they didn't have any source code. So we invented something called CodeWolf. And what CodeWolf does is it uses Mariadb vector databases. And I say Mariadb vector databases because they're much faster than we found with other platforms to index code. And it can take, on average, we're dealing with about, we've got 2 projects on at the moment, one of them is over 1 million lines of code. And it will index code down to the structs and the code base and everything. And then we use vector databases to interrogate that code and then build the new code based on the old code. And once Monty's got his laptop very kindly set up.
So do we need a web browser?
Yeah, just need a web browser, that's all I need. Because I planned for this eventuality and installed it on a server in the cloud. So what a CodeWolf server does is, so for a big code base, it can take it 2 weeks to a month to actually do the indexing. It's that in-depth and complex. And by using the vector indexing, one of the problems with AI, if anyone's used AI to code, what happens is it kind of starts pretty well. And then as you go on, it gets worse and worse and worse until eventually, you'll see people nodding, eventually it's completely useless. And it seems to be drunk or something. And you say, it's been looking at the same code base for about a week, and suddenly it's absolutely pretty useless. The code it comes up with, you ask it to rewrite this portion of this code, rewrite the function to do this, and it comes up with something that is just way off what it actually does, because it's lost context, because the code base is so huge that it just can't maintain context. And we overcame that by using vector databases. So our AI, instead of just going into a complete panic and writing what is the probable answer, because you know what AI is, it's a probability engine. So the way it's actually working is you ask it a question, it converts that to numbers in a 3D space, which I'll show you in a second. And then what it does is it finds the most probable answer. So that is, yeah, thank you, that's fantastic. I can't believe I'm using Monty's computer.
I'm using my phone at the same time.
I'm using your phone at the same time. On the mouse. Where's the mouse?
You are even using his database, by the way. Yeah.
There. Oh, okay. It's a little. Oh, it's another red one. Oh, yes, those are the days. The little red monster. There you go. Just got to get in that monster. Okay. That's it. I'm good. If I can get into the browser bit, there it is. Okay, I'm going to get this in a second.
You need my finger.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, could you go to a web address for me? I want you to go to codewolf.wolf.uk.com.
CodeWolf.
CodeWolf, that's it, one word, in English here, which is WOLF.
Yep.
OLF, not ULF.
Sorry.
Yeah, so .wolf, sorry, codewolf.u, codewolf dot wolf.uk.com. Excellent. If you hit enter on that one, that's fantastic. So this is what CodeWolf server looks like after it's indexed the system, and the actual source code becomes part of CodeWolf. Okay, so I'm going to show you what a vector database looks like. Now what we did, this is actually, you know, you said it's the HTOP. Yeah? So we ran CodeWolf on HTOP. If I show you one with 1 million lines of code, we'll be here from way longer than my 20 minutes. But so CodeWolf, I'll use the right little mouse here. I won't click it. Okay, that's it. So this is what HTOP looks like in a vector database. Okay, and what I can do, this is only a basic one as well. I'm going to try and drag, which is going to be really cool. There you go. I've got this, Monty. So what it also does is I can actually click on that and zoom into that, and it gives you an idea of what the vector database looks like to CodeWolf. Now it's actually much more sophisticated than that, because it knows how everything is related to everything else. So when we've got 1 million lines of code in the code base, it understands that. Now another thing our clients need is we need to have documentation. And how many of you, I don't know if you coders, have been lumbered with a code base where someone sat you down and gone, Problem is, he left about 3 weeks ago. I've done it. We've been left with a massive Python thing for running electronic control circuits. And they went, oh, you couldn't sort this out, could you? There was no documentation, he even commented the code. So what we get out, what CodeWolf also does is just drive this back and go back to the menu, docs. This one, I'm getting good at this now, is actually documents all the code. Let's see if we can find a good one. So that's just the class, it's in C. We're not really C programmers, we prefer Rust, which I'll come to in a second.
Enable the tax project.
I just need to, Monty, my lovely assistant, could you just scroll down there? Some of you had arguments with Monty about your presentation. I've got him running my show. Anyway, so just pick, I don't know, command line.c, let's try that one. Just try to find someone with a good bit of data.
Command line.
About any of those, yeah. We'll just click on one. There it is. Okay, so it documents the code. So it understands fully how the code works. So now we can do something even better. Now the cool thing about vector indexing, vector databases, is you can ask it questions. So if we could go over here to ask, that'd be cool. Yeah, thanks very much. If you could type in that box, what bugs are in this code? And then click ask question. Don't have to get it right. That's it. And then ask question. Remember, this is HTOP, downloaded from their GitHub, and now we just wait a bit. I must do something to make that prettier, apparently. Because Ian, my little brother, who's only here because my mother said I had to bring him if I wanted to come. Just joking, that's not true actually. But Ian looks after the UI, he looks at stuff I've done and goes, there's no UI, sort it out. Okay, let's just wait for a sec. Okay, while it's doing that, and we'll see that in a minute, eventually. Come on, hurry up.
How many lines of code are we doing? It's 4,000 lines. Yeah.
So, there you go. Scroll down. Okay, here you go. There's the bugs in HTOP. Okay, now imagine with 1 million lines of code, they come along and said, we've got this really weird problem with the VAT. Every time we do a VAT invoice and it comes off with an odd number, it's wrong when we try and import it to thing. We can just ask it, and it'll say, the problem is in this bunch of code here. And if you've got 1 million lines of code, that's the biggest godsend for anyone trying to deal with old code. We're also doing a lot with CodeWolf. We know of one client that we're working with IBM as well, with their IBM Power Servers or something else, because they've got RISC processors, but I won't go into that. If you've got 1 million lines of code, in the old days, we did a COBOL translator to rewrite COBOL from C. We've now converted to write to Rust as well. But this will do it as well. So we've got a customer they are paying a non-compliance fine every year, okay? And it's easier for them to do that, to migrate their code or databases. So our involvement we're partners with Mariadb because we're going to sell Mariadb into clients who wouldn't otherwise be able to use it because we've got a route to migrating all the stuff, okay? Now it's not magic, all right? It's not vibe coding in the sense that there are sometimes things like libraries. So with the railway one of the issues is that on the railways, they use a thing called a Sentinel card, okay? And there's a library you need with a Sentinel card to tell you all the details of what the person can do on the railways. Railways are very, very regulated, so we had to cope with that. And the only way you could do that is by having a card reader, okay? And then would connect to the Sentinel database, which was written in 2013 with .NET. So we decompiled the software, and then we got CodeWolf to have a look at it, and then we are able to write our own API that actually pretends to log in as a user. In fact, it does actually log in as a user in the background. So on their website, they can go, here's the Sentinel number, and say that's what he's qualified to do. So with this, we're able to overcome a lot of these issues. One of the ones we're rewriting a game client right now that is a downloadable client, and we're rewriting it as a web client. This one is over 1 million lines of code. And one of the issues is that that's a different platform, okay? So what we're doing is we're using Rust to drive it and to provide WebGL up the front. And it's absolutely fantastic at the moment. We're nearly there with it. We've got a few bits to sort out. But we can do it. We can do this kind of migration with just a tiny company of 3 in Watford. and it all works, and that's just using vector databases. We're also doing facial recognition with vector databases, which is fantastic because you don't have to store any faces. You store a 768-byte representation of the face, and it's so good that we had one of our test subjects put a hand over her. In fact, it was a bit of paper she had over her face, and we went, "Who's this?" And it went, "It's her," and it was right. So that's what we're doing. So there's a couple of open source projects I'm going to add as well. You can get these from wolf.uk.com. Apache web server has a response time of about 100 milliseconds. It's 118 milliseconds average. R1 Wolf Serve, which again is open source, you just download it from our GitHub, is about 10, and it will support and run PHP. And the cool thing about Wolf Serve as well is it has a library attached to it, so you can write Rust. It's written in Rust. You can write Rust in your PHP and call it from PHP. So when we're migrating a PHP system to Rust, we can do it really gradually, function by function, if we want to do that. And there's another thing called Wolf Proxy as well. And Wolf Proxy is a drop-in replacement for Nginx for doing proxy load balancing. And they're drop-in replacements, so you set up your Apache server, you turn it off, and you run Wolf Serve instead. You just pick everything up and carry on. And it's really funny. We did a test. I did a test the other day. It was a bit naughty. I turned off Wolf Serve and turned Apache back on, and the customer called me and went, "There's something wrong. It's really slow." "What did you do?" "Oh, we just switched it." The response, because it's written in Rust. Rust is incredible. If you're a coder, go look at Rust. It's really fantastic. And I think, and also, you know that they are rewriting drivers and things for Linux in Rust, and it's going to be, or if it isn't already, it's supported at operating system level. So you're writing code at a really, really flies, and it's really, really fast. So sometimes we're just rewriting small things. We've got 2 minutes. Okay, it wasn't a peace sign there. Okay, 2 minutes. I think that's probably it, I guess, for me. So if you've got any questions.
Yes, this wolf code thing, CodeWolf thing.
CodeWolf thing.
Is this a service? Is this an open source thing?
So I knew you'd ask that. We're a tiny company with no money. Okay, we would like to open source things.
Change it.
We would like to open source things, but open source for us is a bit like Jurassic Park. Okay, we watched the Jurassic Park film. They're all the same Jurassic Park films, aren't they? So people sitting over here, there's a dangerous island over there. They know it's dangerous and people die, and yet they all fly over there because they think there's going to be a big reward. So we're taking a very slow move into open source with these two small products, and we're hoping that our Patreon gets blessed. CodeWolf is a whole different ballgame because it's big. It's a lot of code. So when we open source it, we want to do it in such a way that we're not going to be overrun with technical support questions, and we can actually handle it as a business because there's only 3 of us. So we've got to kind of balance the open source thing with making money. If you're a big corporation, you can open source what you like because you can deal with it, but we just can't handle it, if you know what I mean.
May I rephrase the question? Is it possibility to access the system as a client of yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the goal with clients is what they get. So one of the problems we have with clients is we're a tiny company. So they go, "But what happens if you all win the lottery and move to Mallorca?" And why did I Mallorca? I don't know. So the answer is, here's all the documentation of all your old code, and guess what? When it's done the translation, here's all the documentation of your new code. And also we build Proxmox clusters for them. So we managed to drop one of our clients. They had 2 Windows servers in the cloud, and we built a Proxmox cluster on 3 smaller Linux servers and saved them 20 grand a year in hosting. So, so that's what we're trying to do. It's a struggle being a tiny company, but it's really exciting what we're building. So that's a really good question. So watch out for it going open source. I'd like to open source it tomorrow and go, "Hey guys, here you go." But we're not kind of there yet because we're trying to deal with clients at the moment. So maybe in 6 months we might. Yeah. Any more questions? I think we're done. Thank you, Martin.